Welcome to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grizzly True Sports Network. Indiana Basketball Weekly is brought to you by MyBookie.ag for up to a $1,000 cash bonus on 50% of whatever you put in. So if you put in $2,000, you get an extra grand to play with. Go to thegrizzlytruth.net, click on the banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for Indiana Basketball Weekly, Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in my other co-host. First up, he won an NIT, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Living life large in Los Angeles as usual.
All right. No weather update?
So it's 75 and sunny. I mean, it just gets boring.
All right. It's 61 and cloudy here in southeastern Indiana.
Yeah, it's going to be down. It's going to be down in the low 30s by the weekend, from what I've read according to Al Roker.
Nobody cares. Al Roker used to be fat. Now he's skinny, and he's creepy-looking skinny. All right.
He is creepy-looking.
I know. He looks like you remember Tales from the Crypt on HBO back in the 80s?
Yes, exactly.
That's what he looks like. He needs to fatten up. All right.
and we're going to 85 Saturday and Sunday. So we'll be in the mid to high 80s. So.
Well, I'm happy for you, Steve. All right, we've got our Indiana beat reporter from Indiana University, Cole Hanna. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. Hanging in there.
And, of course, a man who didn't win an NIT, but he did win a Big Ten championship. And if you want to find your why, you can listen to Collin and Allie. Morning Motivationals on YouTube. Help me welcome to the show, Collin Hartman.
That's the first time I think you got my name right.
I always say Collin. I said Colin a couple times. Come on. Colin's a cute name.
Cole, back me up on this. Cole, back me up on this. He's messed it up every single time.
No, I haven't.
it's been a consistent thing.
I know.
Hey, Collin.
Colin's a cute name.
Don't worry. Collin, don't worry. He just calls me dumbass and idiot. So you're lucky it's just Colin. I usually call dumbass and idiot. So there
Mike's
you go.
Mike's a big bully.
He is a big bully.
Yeah. But what I can kick all your asses, that's why I can do that. All right, let's start off talking about another bully, which was the Wichita State Shockers, who beat the Indiana Hoosiers what seems like 10 years ago now, 73-63 at Assembly Hall. Any takeaways from this game, Cole?
Yeah, they were just the better team. I mean, Wichita State hit big shot after big shot. There were several stretches of that game, especially in the second half, where IU made a run. You thought this was it, and then Wichita State hits a big shot. Especially McDuffie was the best player in the court all night long. I thought, I can't quite figure it out. They kind of carried over the same thing they did against Arkansas, which is, they struggled offensively in the first half. They shoot 32%. They were better in the second half and shot 45%. But I think their bad start in that first half really cost them, and they just really couldn't get over that hump in the second half.
All right. Steve, what was your big takeaway from this classic battle?
That the season's over.
All right, Collin.
We got it done with.
Collin, you got anything?
I don't know. I think we got better at the end of the season. There was that little stretch, and then, fell back to what we, that 12 out of 13 loss streak. We fell back into kind of that with sloppy turnovers and not playing well. But I don't know. Nothing specifically on the game. We just, we reverted back the last few games, and that's why it ended up like it did.
All right.
Yeah, can I comment?
Yeah, I was hoping you would just take over from here because I haven't failed my why yet today. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, fine. Two things here. First off, Collin, for you, both Juwan Morgan and Romeo Langford surpassed your career scoring in one season. They didn't quite get to me, but they got to you. They're only about 20 points away from me, but they passed you in one season. So there you go. You moved down a couple more notches on the IU scoring list. I stayed.
So you just wanted to come on and do a Friday afternoon show just to bust Collin's balls. Okay.
No, I just wanted to say, and that was just all in fun. And Collin, neither Collin or I were scorers. I mean, Collin should have been a scorer at IU if he'd have shot more, but he didn't take shots. But anyway, I just was really disappointed in the apathy of this basketball team all season long. I just never saw this team play with passion. There were stretches of moments of getting after it, but I think that this was a talented basketball team. This team underachieved tremendously, in my opinion. But I just, for some reason, and I don't know if it's because of the makeup of the kids on the team, which are all great kids, or it's the makeup of not getting the coach to be able to communicate with the players. I just never saw this team fire up. And we've been watching the NIT, we've been watching the NCAA, and I just see teams come out playing like Purdue. Purdue played with heart and passion. And I just can't say that in the entire season that I ever saw Indiana play an entire 40-minute game with heart and passion. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's our biggest problem all year, honestly. And
yeah.
It's funny because I was literally I have conversations that everybody I run into wants to ask me, what happened, blah, 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 which I'm fine with talking about. But I think the consensus is just to reiterate what Steve said, is just the lack of emotion and just intensity and just showing that, get excited or get pissed off or, punch a chair, do something, get in somebody's face. It's just, that's something that I felt like we lacked. We were always just almost too calm or cool, calm, and collected. And I just want you to kind of lose your mind a little bit sometimes, especially in that 12 out of 13 losing streak, just lose your mind. And I think that even Juwan said it, in one of the press conferences after Coach Miller got his first technical or whatever. The guys were waiting for that, and that's something that could have sparked this team a little earlier, and these guys also need to do it on their own. And just, I think that's just, to be completely honest with you, I think it's just the nature of a lot of these guys. They're just, in high school, Romeo was the same way, just never had any emotion, really, really down-to-earth kid, but I value have a little bit of shit to you, to be honest with you. Just, killer mindset and killer instinct, and just show it out there. I think that's kind of what we do this year.
Yeah. So, Mike, my question to you is, as a coach, does this fall on the coaching staff, or does this fall on the players of just not having the heart? I mean, should the coaches be able to instill that kind of, like what Collin spoke to eloquently? A great comment, Collin, because I believe the same thing you believe. I did to you. But, Mike, is this on the coaching staff, that they just never got these kids angry?
I don't know if you can get a person angry. I don't know that you can motivate somebody like Romeo, who coming in you knew was not a fiery, take charge type of guy. I think that you need to recruit guys that want to be here. You need to recruit guys that when they walk in, there's a wow factor. I'm playing at Assembly Hall. And I think a lot of times nowadays that's been lost because, no kid coming up today knows about Indiana when Indiana was a big-time program. You see film of it and stuff, but you need to get kids that appreciate the tradition that was before them. And I think that's been lost. And I think that's been lost at a lot of places. I mean, I think that really with AAU basketball and the way kids are treated now, if they're a top prospect, I don't think when kids go to college anymore, almost anywhere, where a big-time prospect's really wowed by the situation he's in.
I agree.
Agreed. Cole, you went to most of the press conferences all through the Big Ten season. What was Archie's demeanor? I mean, was he apologetic for the play, or was he? I mean, I know Knight would walk into a press conference, just you could tell it was going to be an ugly press conference because it was not going to be pretty, because he was so pissed off at us or any one of the teams he was coaching through the 70s and 80s. What was Archie's demeanor coming into the press conference? Was it kind of like, I'm apologetic, I'm kind of mad, I'm kind of going to tell you why we failed? Because Knight wasn't like that. He called it. He said if it looked like shit, it smelled like shit, it was probably shit. And did Archie ever do that this year?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on which. I mean, he tried it all. I mean, he called out the team. I forget which press conference it was after, but one of them he pretty much just blatantly said the team is soft and they're not fighting hard enough to win right now. Other press conferences, he tried saying, this is on me. It's my fault. I need to get it fixed. He doesn't have that Bob Knight demeanor. He's never going to show that much emotion like Bob Knight, is famous for. But he did call out the team in his own way at multiple points. Other points he tried to take the blame, I guess, for him. It just depended on, what point of the season they were in. But I think for the most part, he tried a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, and Collin, I have respect for Tom Crean. I think he took the team as far as he could get them. I think he maxed out his coaching skill sets there in Indiana. But I got to believe you guys had some brutally hard practice. I know we did. I mean, there were times when we all put jars of Vaseline in our locker room, not because we were going to take it where the sun doesn't shine, but because we were going to be doing loose ball drills on the floor, diving and everything like that. And I have so much respect for Tom Crean. I got to believe you went through the same thing. Is that true? It's like it's going to be a brutal practice. You know what's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to be ugly. And I don't know that I ever heard any lore, and most of it's lore, unless you're in a practice or in a game, where Archie Miller has done this, where he's punished his team for playing poorly. And Mike, as a coach, did you ever punish your teams for playing poorly?
No.
No?
You want my honest opinion? If my team played poorly, it was my fault. I'm the one who's supposed to get them ready. So when you ask me that question,
okay,
I hate that question because I hate to blame Archie, but I've never won a game where I thought I was the reason. Well, that's not true. There's been a handful where I thought I was, but for the majority, I didn't, because the way I looked at it is this. If my team loses, that's on me because everything they do is what I told them to do, what I taught them to do, what I coached them to do. If the team wins, they just did what they were supposed to do. To me, as a coach, if I lost, I always took it personally and always took that it was completely my fault. And I can tell you this, when my teams lost, I would tell them that it was my fault. I must not have coached you well enough. And then I'd cut a couple of them, bring a couple new guys in, and by the next week, we were fine.
So you punished them by cutting them.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a punishment. I sent them home to their wives and their kids and stuff. It was all right. I mean, it wasn't. But I can tell you this. When I first started coaching, the first 10 years I coached, if you lost, you were going to have some issues. But my question is this. I will still punish a team to this day if I think that the effort wasn't there. But I can tell you this, if the effort's not there, that's my fault anyways, and me punishing them is trying to get them to give me the effort that I wanted before. So in the end, it's still my fault. Because if you are the owner of a big business and somebody down the line screws up, the shit still rolls up the hill to you, and you've still got to answer for it because you put that guy in that position. So,
or girl.
Yeah. Whatever.
So are you
transgenders or whatever?
Are you indirectly saying that the failure of this season lies mostly on Archie Miller's shoulders? Is that kind of what you're saying?
It has to. Now, maybe it's because there's players that were here 4 years ago or 3 years ago that don't actually buy into what Archie's doing. But I think the players he has are completely his responsibility. He didn't have to keep anybody that was a junior or senior. And I will say this. I think you can't say he's a bad coach because Juwan Morgan has progressed more than about anybody you'll find in this country from his sophomore year to now. Romeo Langford, I think, is a lot better defender than he was at the start of the year. So it's not that he can't coach. But, yeah, in the end, whatever your team is, if you're the head coach, you're to blame. It doesn't matter if they're the national champion or you're the 315th team in the country. In the end, it falls on you.
Fair. Collin, I mean, does this team, do the kids at IU, and I know you do, and I know I do they value the name of Indiana on their jersey anymore, or do they just look at it as like a Wolford or a Liberty or a Wichita State. And
they'd have been in a
Indiana
tournament
gone
if
to
they'd
that
have been
level?
Wichita, or if they'd have been Wofford or Liberty.
I know, but there was the day I got the phone call from Bob Knight, I'd already verbally committed to Notre Dame, and the day that Bob Knight called me, I dropped it and said, yeah, I'm coming to Indiana because it's Indiana. Collin, is that value still out there? Is that equity in this franchise or program anymore?
To be honest, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I just like what Mike was talking about earlier. People just, especially these kids, especially with social media, everything gets dumbed down. Everything gets so glorified and, me-centered, names on the back of jerseys and stuff like that. It's more of a, how can I get to my next step rather than, representing something bigger than yourself. Just because, I didn't even really grow up watching IU, to be honest with you, but I knew it because I lived here. No, it's just different. It truly is nowadays, and I don't think that's all of the guys that come through here. I feel like some of them have a good understanding of it, but maybe not to the fullest extent, just because they don't really understand that people would literally probably commit murder to try on the jersey once, or to run out of the tunnel once into Assembly Hall.
Like I said, I know that, I was recruited by Duke, North Carolina, UCLA. I mean, any major college, I was recruited. I had over 350 letters in a box somewhere in my garage of recruiting letters that I kept. And the minute I got the call from Knight, it's like I dropped everything and said, and I committed into my junior's basketball season. So that's how important it was for me to be able to put Indiana on the front of my jersey. And I actually worked for Purdue people at a country club in Indianapolis. They were trying to recruit me, and they gave me a job as a lifeguard, and which was pretty good, pretty cool. Except I ended up being a chauffeur, and it wouldn't even go there now. But anyway, but to when you got that call that Indiana wanted you, it's like, yep. Within 20 minutes, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my AD. I didn't tell my high school basketball coach. I just said, yes, Coach Knight, I'm coming to Indiana. You got to call Digger Phelps and tell him, that I'm not coming to Notre Dame, because that's where I was going to go, was Notre Dame. But that era is just so far gone. Can we get that back? And Cole, what do we need to do to get that back? I mean, do we need to get back into recruiting 4-year players? Get away? Is Indiana a one-and-done school? And that's kind of where I want to go with this right now. Duke is a one-and-done school. Kentucky's a one-and-done school. UCLA is a one-and-done school. Is Indiana a one-and-done school or not? Or is this a 4-year school?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a one-and-done school right now. I mean, they haven't really recruited many one-and-dones. We assume Romeo is going to be one. I can't think of any. Vonleh may have been the last one who was a one-and-done player. But, I mean, IU has historically not gotten those recruits. One of the big things when Archie took over was recruiting the state of Indiana. That was a shift in his recruiting philosophy, was he was going to try to lock down Indiana. It's tough. I do understand the argument. You don't want to get one-and-done players. You don't care. I think it's a completely fair argument. At the same time, I don't think that should prevent you from chasing some of the top recruits. Even a guy like, Trace Jackson Davis, I don't know if he'll be a 4-year guy, but I could see him being a 2 to 3 year guy. I think it's a great recruit for Archie. I think that's a guy that wants to be in Indiana. I don't think you need to get a guy that you're for sure this guy is going to be 4 years. But then I do understand that the one and done thing can kind of hurt your program almost more than it helps it if you don't get the right kind of player to help you out there. It's a tough debate to figure out because, you want to get this top talent, but you want to get talent that wants to be there and it's going to play with heart and be excited to be there.
Okay, so Mike, Romeo Langford, did he sit out because of a back injury, or your theory is
I don't care.
He sat out because
my theory is I don't care.
I don't care if you don't care or not, but have an opinion. Have an opinion.
Have an opinion about what? I mean, it doesn't matter. It was meaningless basketball games. Who gives a damn if he played or not? I mean, I can't help it that people stood in line for 7 hours to watch that, but it's the NIT. I mean, if he's going to go to the NBA next year, it would be absolutely stupid to play. And I'll tell you this, if he was going to come back next year, it's absolutely stupid to play. If he has a back issue, why would you play him in meaningless games? That's my opinion. My opinion is either way, whether he's staying or leaving, it's stupid to play in those games.
Collin, is he staying or leaving?
He's leaving.
He's gone?
Yeah, I think he is.
You don't?
Yeah, I would. If he's projected lottery,
you don't think it's stock? He's still predicted lottery? He's still predicted lottery after the, last half of his season?
If he is, I would leave. No brainer.
Yeah, and I agree with Mike in the sense that you can't pass up the money. And I call it the Greg Oden rule. You look at a guy like Greg Oden who, we all know played for Lawrence North and then played for Ohio State for 1 year and then went to the NBA and tore his knee to hell, and his family's financially set for the rest of his life from that initial contract and never. I don't know.
So let me ask you this, Steve. If, as a freshman, you could have been a lottery pick and the NIT was being played, would you have played in it?
Yes, I would have played. Because I love to play the game of basketball. So that's a different era and a different mentality. So that's not the era and mentality today.
Because this is the thing, and the mentality in that era was you weren't going to be a one-and-done player because the NBA very rarely had a Moses Malone. Even Isaiah Thomas had to stay for 2 years. But it's still meaningless games, and you're risking your future over it. Why would you do that?
It's just not in my vernacular or my genre to not go play whenever I can go play. I mean, I used to come home from football practice, eat dinner, do my homework, and then go to Lawrence Park in Lawrence, Indiana, and go play basketball on a concrete court until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
But those games were more meaningless than playing in the NIT. Or they're more meaningful than playing in the NIT.
I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play. I love the game. Has the love of the game been taken over by the love of the money?
No, it's the love of intelligence. Because you have to be a flippin' moron to risk your entire future to play a game against St. Francis in the freaking NIT in front of 5,000 people.
And it's not just your future, it's your whole family. You could set your family up for generations.
Yeah.
It would only be a matter of time before I got called an idiot, dumbass, or moron. So now it's a moron. So there you go. Now I'm a moron on top of being an idiot and a dumbass. So there you go.
Jack of all trades, Steve.
There you go. A man of many faces. That's me. So we all think Langford's going, right? He's gone.
Yeah. I just can't see him staying, to be honest with you.
Juwan's gone, and now we've lost. Clifton Moore. Is he the first of many to go now? I mean, is this a house cleaning, or is this a people don't want to sit on the bench for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I think in Clifton's case, it was just he wasn't going to get very much playing time. I mean, I think for a lot of the season, IU was dealing with, when they had the injury to Duran. Duran was in foul trouble a lot of this season, and Clifton still couldn't get off the bench and get in there. Towards the latter half of that season, they started to play even Jake Forrester ahead of him, one of their freshman big men. So I think Clifton just kind of got the message. He didn't really have a role on this team. He was even one of Crean's recruits that Crean brought in. He committed to IU under Crean. Who's to say? I have no idea if he's one of a few more who may leave after this. That's up to Archie. I don't know how Archie's approaching that. If he's trying to clean house, if this is just purely a playing time decision, who knows? They have a couple guys like that young guys didn't get much playing time. Clifton was one. Demezi, Forrester, guys like that didn't really get consistent stretches of play for IU this season. Their names have been brought up as potential transfers, but it's a guessing game. No one really knows. In Clifton's case, I just think he realized, he didn't get playing time this season, and I know Juwan's gone, but they have Trace Jackson-Davis, who's a 5-star big man coming in. They've been connected to Joey Brunk from Butler in the transfer portal. So I think it's he caught the message that Archie was looking at other avenues outside of Clifton Moore.
Well, that's a great cut. Joey Brunk's leaving Butler. Is any word out there, you guys in Indiana, is he looking to come to IU to play next year?
It's a rumor. Just, the rumors I've read is that it's Indiana, Ohio State that are going at him right now.
Mike, would he be a good addition to Indiana?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Duran.
They need
program. Yeah, you got that. You got, Trace Jackson Harris or whatever his name is. You got an inside game then. Yeah, whatever it is. And you got Race Thompson, and in your backcourt, you still got Rob Finney at point guard. I don't know who you got. Him, you got Durham, and if Devontae Green's back, yeah. So right there, your team is significantly better than what you had this year, I think.
Yeah, I think Jerome Hunter is a big question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I campaigned with Joe Brunk, his dad. I knew his dad very well. We partied and played together in men's leagues, in summer basketball all the time before AAU was popular. His dad was the most hard-nosed basketball player. One of the most hard-nosed basketball players I ever played against. I mean, he would just bang in, beat you. And
so what you're saying is, when you guys played, you had to bring the Vaseline.
I knew he was going to say it.
I couldn't help it. I wanted to say it like 2 minutes earlier, and I'm like, don't. It's crass. I couldn't help myself,
that's
Steve.
All right. Okay, there you go. Yeah, but it was interesting because I read the other day that he's transferring from Butler, which I thought he was a great player for Butler.
Yeah, I think it would.
I think he would be a welcome addition. So
yeah, well, and the thing is this: even if it's not a huge addition, you keep Ohio State from getting him, it ends up being an addition either way.
Exactly. Yeah. Cole, season stats. Anything stand out that needs to be discussed? I'm looking at them right now. Langford led the team in scoring. Morgan was second, real close to each other. And I'm gonna get to Mike's favorite subject here in a second. But anything that really took us down here? 3-point field goal. 31%. Go ahead and talk about season stats before we get on to moving on.
Yeah, obviously the shooting was an issue for a lot of this season. Not even just the 31%. They were significantly lower than that even in Big Ten play. That kind of hurt them for a lot of this season. I think, like you mentioned Romeo and Juwan, they're going to have a lot of scoring to replace. They're going to have to find guys that can step up, and, you got nearly 32 points a game between those two guys. Obviously, we're assuming in Romeo's case that he's going to be gone as well. Turnovers, I think, were another thing that hurt him. So just rebounding was a problem at times. What makes it tough when you look at it from a stat perspective, and we've talked about it all season long, is I don't think statistics tell the whole story with this team. We've talked about it all season long, but the heart, the effort wasn't always there. This is going to be a good team. They're going to have to figure that out. I think that's the biggest issue, is just finding consistent heart, a consistent motor, to go out there and fight. I think a lot of times what they struggle in was, especially in that stretch when they lost 12 of 13 games, is teams would punch them in the mouth and IU would fold. There was no fight there. They wanted to fight their way back into the game. They got better at that as the season progressed. I think they're going to have to be much better at that next year.
Okay, let's go to Mike's favorite topic.
Oh, we're going to talk about Collin and Allie.
I'm not going to jump on Collin and Allie.
I keep plugging that show. I want everybody to watch it, so I'm just trying to help.
You're getting viewers for him.
Yep.
I don't know when it's on. I subscribed, but I block everything, so I don't get any notices of subscriptions.
So what you're saying is you don't support Collin and what he does?
If Collin would text me and say, "Hey, my show's coming on," I'd go watch it.
So now we got to do that. Well, if it's live, how's he going to text you during the show?
He can text me before and say, "We're coming on," and go watch the show, and I'd watch the show. But I block everything on my computer.
Hey,
I don't
do
let
this from now on, Collin.
my computer.
Start the show off by, this is Collin and Allie. We're brought to you by Steve Risley, Vaseline for Men.
Well, no. Now here's the truth. Here's the truth. Here's the God's honest truth. I get more tweets from Allie than I do Collin. Allie comments on the tweets I put on Twitter or the comments I put on Facebook. Collin never responds at all.
Yeah, because you don't even watch his show. I mean, now I can see why he doesn't.
I don't know when it's on. I'll go after this show hangs up. I'll go watch it. I'll go watch the replays. Let's talk about Mike's favorite, unfavorite topic, Devontae Green.
What the hell was that?
I switched over to my car.
Okay. That's a cool sound. Maybe we should start the show with that.
Devontae Green. And Mike and I will go at this, and I'm not going to get into a pissing match with him on it, but I'm a Devontae Green fan. I know. But what's your guys' take on Devontae Green this year? Did he help this team or hurt this team this year? Cole, we'll start with you. We'll let Mike go last because I know what he's going to say. Cole, did Devontae Green help this team or hurt this team?
Well, I think there's two Devontae Greens you need to talk about. I think there's Devontae Green you got for the first half that season, who I thought struggled with turnovers for a lot of the season. He had some really good offensive games in that first half, but they weren't consistent. And I would have said he was you obviously had the suspension. I would say he was a net negative for the team. But then you move forward to the latter half of the year, really starting with Michigan State, and I'll go through the games here. He had 13, 11, 16, 26, 12, 18, and 12. That's what he scored in those last 7 or 8 games. So you started to get the consistent offense from him. He still has a lot of just plays and make you want to pull your hair out trying to figure out what he was doing. But the big thing to me is this is a guy that's always struggled with consistency, not only with turnovers, but scoring-wise, he's never been consistent. Shooting-wise, he's never been consistent. And at the end of the year, you started to see that consistency come, at least from a scoring perspective. He has the athleticism to be a good defender. He has decent size for a point guard. And when you look at IU losing Romeo and Juwan, I think I agree with you, Steve. I think Devontae is a big piece of this because he's the guy that offensively he can replace a lot of that production. They have guys like Al Durham who, he's a solid player, but he didn't show that offensive ability to really explode and take control of games. Really, no one else on IU has outside of Devontae Green. So I think he's an important piece moving forward.
Okay, and before I go to Collin, Devontae, there were 3 players on the team that made more turnovers than Devontae. Langford, Morgan, and actually Justin Smith made more turnovers than him. And I'm looking at the season stats right now. He was the 3rd leading scorer on the team. To me, he seemed the only player that I felt like, maybe other than Juwan, that I would have enjoyed playing with. That I would have said, yeah, let's get after it. Yeah, you're going to screw up, but you're going to recover too. And I think they missed the boat with him not making him more of a leader on this basketball team all season long. Yeah, he's error prone, but I think a lot of things that his mistakes were made were trying to make things happen as opposed to and he did a lot of dumb plays, there's no doubt. But he was trying to make things happen. And he's really the only kid other than Juwan. And when you're in the post, Collin, as you know, and I know when I played down in the post, you're relying on somebody getting you the ball when you're down in the post. Devontae is a kid who has the ball in his hands is trying to make things happen. I think Finney is the point guard of this basketball team, no doubt. He's got to have the ball in his hands, bringing it up, and starting and running the offense. But eventually, it's got to pass through Devontae, in my opinion. Collin, what are your thoughts? Mike, you can rip me apart. I know you're going to. So.
Good that you're beaten before we
honest.
have the discussion, but go ahead, Collin.
I'm going to be completely honest. Quite candidly, looking forward to next season. I think we need Devontae. I think we need as good as the bad, because at the end of the games, when we need somebody to take a crazy, take and make a crazy shot, when I look at the roster, he's the only one that will make a really big shot. He did it several times this year and made some tough shots and stuff like that. While we might not want that in the middle of the game, we definitely are going to need it at the end. And I think for Devontae to transform into a leader of this team, he has to conduct himself much differently off the court, and conduct himself with more of a sense of urgency, and more of a put-together type person. Devontae's, he talks a lot of shit, and I love that because it's energy and stuff like that. But there's got to be a balance there. There's got to be some kind of control with the chaos. And I think that's what Devontae has to find on and off the court to emerge into a leader. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, we're going to need him next year. That's my opinion.
All right, Mike, have at me.
Well, do you need him if he's still going to be full of shit? I mean, yeah, if he would turn his life around and play differently, yeah, he would be very important to this team. But basically, your whole season is going to depend on Devontae next year if you're coming in dependent on him being a leader, because if he doesn't change or partway through the season reverts, your season's lost. I would say I would defer to Archie on this. If Archie thinks that Devontae is important, Devontae will be there. If Devontae is more of a hindrance in Archie Miller's case, I'm sure Archie will let him go. All I know is this: to say that he should have been a leader on this team is nuts, because all I know is I went and watched Virginia and Purdue play last night. And Virginia and Purdue won because they take care of the ball. And Purdue's got guys that aren't afraid to take big shots. I mean, they got a few of them. Nobody's afraid to, because they play with no fear of losing. But more importantly, and you see the way they interact with each other before the game and after a game, it seems to me that they all really give a damn about each other. And the sad thing for me is that I'm there and I'm watching this game, and I got probably 500 Purdue fans right behind my back. Scary situation. You never know what they're going to do. I know. Maybe they'll bring out the men's Vaseline from Steve Risley. But when I start talking to them, and I talked to them for a little bit, and I watched this team play. I watched the way they conducted themselves before the game. And it's the first time in my life, except for the few times Purdue's played Kentucky, because I hate those guys. But it's the first time I've ever cheered for Purdue. And I didn't even feel dirty doing it, because that team plays the way an Indiana basketball team is supposed to play. They fought their asses off. They got a big lead. They blow the lead, which is what Indiana basketball team does do right now. But then they fought back. And even after getting the game, into overtime, where it looked like Tennessee was on a little bit of roll, maybe they could run them out of the building, Purdue stood up and won the game. And when I watched them, and I talked to Purdue fans, and it was funny because the Purdue fans, they're all pumped up when they're up by like 14 with 12 minutes left. And then Tennessee goes on the run. And I hear a Tennessee fan mumble, or a Purdue fan mumble beside me, well, this is how it always ends in the tournament for us. And I'm like, yeah. But I'm telling you this, Steve, all I know is this. In football, the team with the least amount of turnovers wins 90% of the time. In basketball, the team with less turnovers wins probably 75% of the time. So maybe if you eliminate the biggest cause of the turnovers, maybe that would be a big
Well,
deal.
he wasn't the biggest cause, Mike. He was fourth in turnovers on the team.
Bullshit, Steve, because he didn't really play point guard a whole lot. So who was the biggest turnover guy? The guy who had the ball the most, Romeo?
He led them in turnovers. He led them in turnovers per game, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean,
he missed
three
if you
games. For games played.
Yeah, he missed 3 games because there was more important stuff than this team to him. And you want that guy to be a leader?
Well, my question to you is this. At $3.5 million a year base salary, can you not coach that out of him?
No, not if he's like that, because sometimes you can't coach something out of somebody. Sometimes guys...
You can't rewire somebody.
Yeah.
That's just how they are.
Yeah. You could take a kid when he's a freshman coming in at 18 and maybe have an impact. But when you're coming in and he's already played a year or so, he's already been told by everybody how great he is and how important he is, maybe he needs to hear that maybe you're not that important, Devontae. Because you know what? He played the end of the year. We still got our ass beat. Maybe we won a few more games. But we still lost to Wichita State. We still lost to Ohio State in a game where, yeah, he shot great. But he makes a couple turnovers, which are the difference in the game, because the difference in the game is always turnovers. You watch Texas Tech, Virginia, Michigan, those teams play defense. They play it hard. And there's not a whole lot of 5-star recruits on any of those teams, especially Texas Tech outside of the Culver kid. That's a team that just gets after it. Virginia, same thing. And let's face it, for Indiana and Purdue fans, Kyle Guy left. You know, back in the day, Indiana or Purdue would get you. You wouldn't end up at Virginia. And I would like to say also for Matt Painter and all the people that rip on Matt Painter, Steve, I think Matt Painter's a really good coach, and he's done a great job with that program. And don't you backtrack right now on me.
I think and Matt Painter's a friend of mine, and so I, we don't send each other Christmas cards, but every time we're in a room together.
Does anybody really send Christmas cards anymore, though, Steve? Do you send Christmas cards to anybody?
Well, that's a metaphor, Mike.
I know, but do you send Christmas cards to anybody anymore?
I don't send Christmas cards anymore. No, I haven't sent Christmas cards.
Rich people do.
Years.
Okay, rich people do.
Rich people have.
Rich people do.
But I think that Purdue won that game because of the heart of the players more than the brains of the coach.
But wait a second.
Wait a second.
Now hold on.
To win.
Don't you have to recruit those kids to get that in the end?
I'm not knocking Matt Painter.
Because I don't think coaching matters that much at the end of a game in these situations. I think most of the situations from
matters a ton.
No, it doesn't. The thing that matters is who wants to win the game the most, and that is coaching. Because you're the one that puts that into your kids. And a lot of this is born into them. But when it gets down to it, there's a reason why we see the same guys all the time. I don't think you have to be a great X and O's guy. What you got to be able to do is get kids, number one, to believe you know what you're talking about, and number two, to know that you give a shit about them. If you do those two things, you will be a great coach, and you will win close games, because at the end, it means more to those kids. That's the biggest thing to coaching. Mike Krzyzewski and Tom Izzo are great coaches come tournament time, not because of anything other than the fact that they make those kids care more than the other kids care. And we're sitting here talking about Indiana basketball and how it looks like they don't care. But yet nobody understands the fact that Matt Painter gets these kids to care. Matt Painter has less talent than Indiana, at least by rating players coming out of high school. But Purdue is worlds ahead of Indiana because of that one very reason.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not going to knock Matt Painter. I'm not going to knock him. I think Purdue won that game with their heart. The kids on the court won that game. And if that came from Matt Painter all season long, then bully for Matt Painter.
Well, from my experience, that's usually where it comes from.
In terms of on-court decisions at the crucial minutes of a game, I don't have as much faith in Matt Painter as I would have in other coaches. They pulled it off. They got it done. We'll see what happens against Virginia. That's great. I mean, love to see Purdue in the Final Four. If it's not Indiana, let's make it Purdue. No big deal. It's our sister school. Let's go for it. Let's get it done. So, looking forward, guys, where does Indiana need to go? Collin, Cole, Mike, you guys are all in Indiana. I'm in California. Where do they need to go to turn this program around? We think we've got a good coach. We like Archie. We're not all unsold on him yet. What do they? Everybody throw in your comments. Where do they need to go from here to turn this program around? Because we're now 2 years of mediocre, 500 basketball with allegedly the new young millennial coach. So what do we need to do?
My 2 cents. I have 2 points. I have 2 points. No, Collin. I have 2 points.
Colin?
Sorry,
Colin.
Colin. Go ahead, Colin.
My first point is just like kind of what Mike said. Is just get players that want to be here. That means something too. You don't have to get all the talent in the world or chase all the talent that doesn't understand or respect what's across their chest. Get guys with emotion. You'll be fine. Everybody that buys into the program, into the system, you'll be fine. And then something has to change at the very, very top.
What do you mean by very, very top?
You know exactly what I mean.
But I was wanting you to say it so Cole would know.
Cole knows, too. I think everybody knows. He's around, IU.
Yeah. But to answer your question, Steve, I agree with Colin. I think as far as getting guys that want to be here, guys that have the heart, that'll give the effort, I think that's a big thing. And you're mostly going to have to do that through recruiting. One of the guys I am excited about coming in is Trey Jackson-Davis because I think that is a guy that wants to be here. I don't think it's quite the Romeo Langford situation where, to be quite honest, if Louisville doesn't go through sanctions, he's probably not in Indiana. Whereas you got a guy like Jackson-Davis that pretty much Indiana's been the lead for his entire recruitment. And, it's just always seemed like he was going to end up here because this is where he wanted to be. I do think, again, speaking of Jackson-Davis, size on the inside has been an issue for IU, especially when Davis was out and Juwan got into foul trouble. They bring in a guy like Jackson-Davis that can help him from a size standpoint. Hopefully Duran can get healthy and help him down low. And then I think outside shooting is the other thing. I mean, IU was, shooting 27% from three in Big Ten play. They pretty much were the only Big Ten team that was below 30% from behind the arc. I mean, they were pitiful from behind the arc. They're going to have to get better in that area too.
Mike, you want to go first? You want me to go before you? You want to have the final word?
How can I go first? Because the other two already did. I think it comes back to what Collin said. What I've been saying is culture. Ken Sterling said it when he was on there. You got to get kids that want to be here. And I think that was a great point about Romeo Langford and how he would have probably been in Louisville if it wasn't for Patino. And the saddest thing, I'll finish with this, is the fact that when I'm at the Yum Center, the KFC Yum Center, which is a stupid name, but they got a lot of money for it. When you walk out on the concourse, they've got, like Purvis Ellison and all the Louisville greats, and they got these big banners for them, and they've still got a banner to Rick Pitino. I find that sad. I think maybe it should be just a statue of Rick Pitino sitting in a chair with like a stripper giving him a lap dance. And he's hands on her ass, and maybe a couple student athletes watching there signing letters of intent. I think that would be, more apropos. With a jar of Vaseline.
Or give him a freaking blindfold because he was clueless through the whole thing, allegedly.
Yeah. Yum Brands owns, I think they own Burger King. I know they own Kentucky Fried Chicken. I know they own Pizza Hut. They own Taco Bell, so that's a major corporation. It's an
awesome facility, though.
Yeah, they're pouring a lot of money into it. Unlike Papa John's Pizza, who that idiot got, like John Schnechter. I played golf with him at Valhalla, and he got his ass fired for being an idiot. So,
do you think that there is a connection there?
I don't know. I don't get that deep into that kind of stuff.
Okay, you didn't get my joke, but that's all right. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think I like what Collin said and what Cole said. Indiana needs to get back to recruiting Indiana, and going back to the tradition. I don't care who the coach is, and there's always been this talk now about we need to bring a Woodson or a Whitman or an Alford or somebody. I don't think so. I think Archie's going to be fine. You looked at his first 2 years at Dayton. He struggled his first couple of years till he got his system into place. He got his players into place, and then he started to excel dramatically at Dayton. I think it's going to happen in Indiana. But I do think that Indiana is not a culture that favors the one-and-done type player, and I think Romeo is a great experiment for that. Isaiah is an exception. Isaiah had nothing left, no reason to stay at IU. He had done it. He's 2-year All-American. He was national champion, player of the year, whatever. He got to play with me, which was really the crowning moment in his career.
Did you guys use Vaseline? All right.
Man.
I'm trying to get us a Vaseline sponsor, so.
Sponsorship, there you go.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, listening, yeah. But I think, Indiana needs to go back and find Hoosiers or, Illini or Buckeyes, which is what Knight did in his era, and stayed pretty much in that genre of recruiting. And they need to get kids. They need shooters. They need guys that want to play hard. They need, and like Collin said, they need to find kids that want to wear Indiana on the front of their jersey. Now, it's a lot different than when I played there because that was the place to play. It was a little harder for Collin because they'd already kind of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit, but still there was enough there that, Collin wanted to still wear Indiana on the front of his jersey. Now it's the point where, is Wolford on the front of your jersey or Liberty a better name because it's going to get you in a dance. I mean, you got a kid like Romeo Langford now who's going to walk away from college basketball having never played a dance. And we have to get back to that. And I think the only way you do that now is to get kids that want to play for Indiana and not kids that want to play college basketball.
All right, let's do this.
Hopefully,
this is, I think, the interesting question. And I'll start with Cole. How confident are you that Archie Miller is going to fix this? Scale of 1 to 10.
How confident am I?
Yeah, scale of 1 to 10. How confident are you that 3 years from now we're sitting here and Indiana's relevant?
I go 7. I'm pretty confident. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he got to Indiana and forgot how to coach. I think he just needs a little bit of time to get fixed. At least that's what I want to believe.
All right, Collin?
I got to go with like a 7 or an 8. I just think that he needs to get his guys in there. He needs to recruit the right guys. He needs to not listen to the fan base that's like go after every 5-star that there is in the country. That's not what Indiana does. Not how we're going to get back, and that's not how his coaching style works. I'm about a 7 or 8.
All right, Steve.
I'm at a 6. I'm not that confident.
Well, 6 is better than 50-50 chance, though.
Well, it's barely betting. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt because I looked at his record at Dayton and saw what he did the first 2 years at Dayton. But other than that, I've seen other guys take other programs in the first year, what Chris Mack did at Louisville and what other coaches have done in the first 1 or 2 years. And I still think as a coach, he should have been able to turn his program around to where we didn't miss the dance this year. Last year, I'll buy. This year, I'm very disappointed in that. And I didn't see the effort out of the team. So I'm not as confident as the other two guys are. But we'll see. I'm going to stay at 6 because I'm still going to give the benefit of the doubt. But, yeah, I'm not really 100% sure.
All right. Anything else we want to say?
Mike, you?
Mike,
Mike, you?
I asked a question. It means I don't have to answer it.
No.
Honestly,
you got to answer.
Really? So you're going to tell me what to do when I've got the mute button? Huh.
Okay, Dan Dawkins.
All right. I see how you are. I'm about to take some Vaseline and have you slide your big ass right on out of here. So hold on. I would say, I'll give it a 5. I think he's still going to pull it off. But I do have concern, and my concern is not so much Archie. My concern is just the past 20 or 25 years and the way things have gone. That's the thing that would put it at a 5 for me. If Archie was in his third year at Louisville or second year at Louisville, I'd probably have a lot more confidence. But it just seems like Indiana basketball's been snake bitten for a while. So,
let me ask one more question here. While we're on stage, let me ask one more question to all three of you, and we'll start with Collin on this one. Does he need to revamp his assistant coaching staff, Collin?
I don't think so. No, I addressed this earlier in the season. Coaches can change, their ways just as well as players can. If they need to do, more here or there, more development, more X, Y, Z or whatever, more in-game coaching, divide up players, do more of that, all that stuff that we've talked about. If they decide that that's what's best for the program, then those guys and the talent and the history that those guys have, more than capable, beyond capable. I mean, Coach Bruder, he was an assistant coach under Calipari, coached over on the East Coast. I mean, he has head coach experience, so it's just Coach Schilling, obviously, he's developmental king. He just needs to be better at it, I guess. I don't know. It's just they can develop and make changes rather than making changes to the staff. I think they have a good staff.
I'll go next. Then I'll say yes, he needs to adjust his coaching staff. He needs to get somebody on there with some fire and ice, somebody who's going to bust some balls and get in somebody's face. And, even if he's got to get into Miller's face a little bit, because I still think Miller, I pay more attention to the coaching staff than I do the games when I'm watching IU play, because I want to see how they're reacting to things, because the last part of my 30 years has been more coaching than playing. And I think this is a soft coaching staff. I don't think that they've done a good enough job to get these kids ignited. And I put most of this season on the coaching staff more than I do the players. And Mike, I know you're a coach and you're going to have a different opinion, or you're going to have the same opinion. I don't know which way, but I think he needs to revamp his coaching staff if he's going to be successful next year. Cole, what do you think? Then Mike, you go last because you're the coach.
I'll pretty much trust whatever Archie wants to do there. We don't see him behind the scenes. We don't really know what they're doing behind the scenes, so I think it's tough to say. I'm just pretty much going to trust whatever Archie wants to do. If he thinks he needs to make a change, I think he'll make a change. If he thinks they have a good staff, I think he'll keep the staff. I trust him.
Yeah, you're trying to get credentials for next year again, too, so good for you. Mike, what do you think?
I think Cole is dead on this. We have no idea what the coaching staff is supposed to do. We don't know if they've done what Archie wants. If they haven't, I'm sure Archie will get rid of them. If they have, I'm sure Archie will keep them. I don't know why you would bring a ballbuster in to be an assistant coach, because that's not what an assistant coach is supposed to do. If somebody's going to bust somebody's balls, it's got to be the guy in charge.
Okay, two things to that. One is I went to many UCLA practices and watched that Schilling coach, and he was not a good practice coach.
Well, is he there to be a practice coach, or is he there to be a recruiter?
Or is he there to be a recruiter? Well, who's he recruiting? What are we getting done there?
Well, I think
so. What's his net value?
The kid they got coming in, I would say that there's some value there. I don't think that I don't think we've had bad players recruited, and Ed Schilling was coaching for Steve Alford, so it's not like he was coaching for John Wooden over there. And the other thing is this: as an assistant coach, you can only do what the head coach allows you to do.
There you go. All right.
So my point is this: if you just offhanded, say you went somewhere to coach, and you were an assistant, and you had this arrogant asshole that wanted all the credit for everything, and he was the coach, All right, and maybe he used to play at Indiana in the 1980s, and now he was coaching at UCLA. I'm just saying, I mean, you can be hamstrung by a stupid head coach if you're an assistant coach. And your dog agrees with me. I hear your dog agreeing with me in the background.
Steve, get your dog.
I think the pool guy's here to clean the pool again, so,
All right. Well, we're going to have to wrap the show up because Steve's pool guy is here.
Keep the Vaseline away. Don't get the Vaseline.
You know what? We've only got issues if the pole guy is there and he's bringing Vaseline.
The pole guy. It's not the pole guy. It's the pool guy.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
Well, whatever. You can have fun with either one if you got enough Vaseline. What?
The future here is this is our last show as Indiana Basketball Weekly until after the season. Then we're going to start Indiana Basketball Weekly, the Legends Series. Correct? Everybody in on that?
Sure.
So we're going to take a couple-week break. I know I'm lining up some guys to come on to talk about legend and lore of Indiana basketball for the entire summer. Collin, I know you'll get some guys on board. Cole, you'll get Archie Miller, no doubt, because you and him are buddies now.
Yep, pretty much.
There you go.
Is that the plan, Mike?
Yep, and I think I'm going to get Collin Hartman on.
Who's that?
Well, I'm
never heard of that guy.
I know. That's what Reggie Miller said.
No, I sent Collin a text, and I said the first guest we have on the Legend Show is this great.
No, you said yourself.
Player.
Don't do
That's
that.
Me, yeah,
you said yourself first.
Collin has to interview me on the first show.
Hey, all I can tell
Collin,
you this: the Purdue fans I was talking to last night, they're talking to me about the site, and they're like, so you do an Indiana show? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, who's on your Indiana show? I said, Steve Risley. You ever hear on him? They all get this look like they got to take a shit, but they're not sure on their face. And then I'm like, do you know who Collin Hartman is? And I like every one of them. Oh, yeah, we know who he is. He's on YouTube with Allie.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah, he is.
I can take it. No problem.
Well, hell yeah, because you got
60 years
old. Yeah, you got all that Vaseline.
Plenty of Vaseline.
I bring it on myself, no doubt at all.
So, if you're a petroleum jelly company and you want to be the sponsor to the Indiana Basketball Show, just send us a message at thegruelingtruth@gmail.com. All right, go ahead, Steve.
I'm done. I've taken enough.
Don't
just
stop. Everything you say now is going to go back to that.
Right now.
All right, and you know what? We need to get Ted Kitchell back on because I'm going to ask him about the Vaseline to see if you guys really had Vaseline.
Oh, we did. There's no doubt. We all had Vaseline in our locker. Are you kidding me? We lubed up like crazy. We knew what was coming.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, damn.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh. All right, guys. This show has went off the rails. At least we didn't go off the rails, at least in my opinion, until the end of the season, unlike the Indiana Hoosiers, who went off the rails about game 14. But we are going to wrap the show up. Keep an eye out on Twitter. Probably in about 2 weeks on Wednesday night, we will have the first of the Indiana Legends show. Make sure you go to MyBookie or go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the MyBookie.ag banner, and go bet on Purdue. What the hell? We might as well. Can't bet on Indiana anymore. And you'd have lost your ass if you did this year. All right. So remember, you can hear all of our shows on Spotify. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Collin Hartman, Steve Risley, Cole Hanna, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where we have plenty of Vaseline jokes.